we kind of started talking about a long time in the future, but in terms of like what the Federal Reserve is doing right now, I just saw today that they're going to start buying corporate bonds, like individual corporate bonds from just companies. So companies that need more money, they can just go to the Federal Reserve and basically get these sell them the bonds. What else do you think they're going to try to do to keep this economy afloat at this point? Because it seems like they're pouring so much money into the economy, and the stock market is, for now, it's almost back where it was. But if there's a second wave of coronavirus, or if there's more social unrest or whatever, like what's the next step, honestly?
Yeah. Well, a couple comments. One is about 1 out of 5 corporations is zombified, which means that the amount of income that they produce annually doesn't pay their annual debt. So that's like you having to pay $12,000 a year just for your mortgage alone, and you only make $10,000 a year. So that's that. So what happens? So think about it. If you were in charge of the money, and you knew the money always becomes worthless in these type of scenarios, wouldn't you print as much as you possibly could and then own everything that's real? Own all the real estate, own all the corporations, own all the land, own all the food suppliers, own all the politicians. Oh, they already own, I'm sorry, I misspoke. And own everything else that isn't nailed down, and then let the currency burn, because you own everything that's real of productive value or has an asset, and the currency is what it is. It's worthless. So you would just print until people didn't want to take that printed money anymore. And we're going to get there, I'm pretty sure. It certainly happened in the past over and over again. The problem is, and I think several of my friends, Mike Maloney probably being the leader, has explained that with the situation we find ourselves in, with the destruction of employment, supply chains, the food system, small businesses, and everything else, we're going to go into a perceived deflation, because cash is going to be hard to get. And most people are over leveraged, which means they borrow too much. And now they can't service the debt, just like these corporations can't. So they're going to be scrambling for cash. So it's going to be very valuable to them. And that's part of the process. And then it's going to kind of do a flip-flop where the people that maybe don't have enough cash still don't have enough cash. But the people that have plenty are seeing it deteriorate to the point where they've got to do something with it. And that's where the run to gold starts. So let me reframe that a little bit. I think you understand, and I think most of the viewers do as well. But you could get to a situation where I've outlined many times, where you see the dollar going up and up and up, and gold going up and up and up as well. And then at some point, there'll be this divergence where you see the gold is going up, not only in dollar terms, but gold is going up and the dollar is going down. That's kind of your key, that the velocity of money has changed, where people say, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. I don't have much savings, but I got this much. I'm not making my mortgage payment. I'm buying more canned food or whatever happens. So it's not bright. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but again, trying to be a realist. And again, people have gone through, people on the planet have gone through horrible situations throughout recorded history. I mean, my stomach gets tense just thinking about it, because, I've lived in kind of one of the several decades where things have been relatively peaceful and very abundant in this country, because we're able to trade pieces of paper for valuable goods all over the globe.
Yeah, well, that's why it's important to let people, find out about precious metals, so that when that kind of stuff happens, as it always does throughout history, they can pretty much protect themselves and their families and stuff. So, yeah, that was a very interesting point you made, though, about how the dollar could go up, actually, even though they're printing more of it, just because they need to keep printing more and more to satisfy all the debt.
Yeah, you got to remember, in the Weimar Republic, the cry from the populace was there's not enough money. They kept saying that there's not enough money, there's not enough money, there's not enough money. What they really meant was there's not enough quality money.
Yeah.
But no one really caught on to that until the hyperinflation was so apparent. They saw, oh, I mean, people that had life insurance policies, whole life policies, cashed them out and were able to buy a stamp to mail a letter with their life savings. I'm not saying it's going to get that bad here. In fact, I'm very almost certain it won't. You don't need that type of inflation to wipe out a currency. You don't need that amount at all. In fact, a doubling in food prices, which is probably fairly likely within the next year, year and a half, in my studied view, could be, I'm not saying would be, could be enough just to wake up enough Americans to say, oh my goodness, you know, they'll perceive it as inflation, which part of it is, but primarily it's a supply situation. The supply of food is cut drastically, which means prices are going to go up drastically. And that's one place that the American public really does pay attention. I mean, if you got to go to a fast food place and it costs like $10 for a hamburger, it's like, wait a minute, something isn't right here.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be a lot of alarm bells going off for a lot of Americans in the next few years, I think, in terms of the financial system. Yeah, so, you know, hopefully, you know, we can spread the word. And like you said, if all Americans invest in the precious metals, it would be possible to pretty much take control of the system, actually. So, you know, there's still ways that, you know, people can make the situation better, at least for themselves.